Hey, what's shaking, guys? How's it going today? So we are beginning this Antigone propaganda project, our visual project. And the first thing that we're going to learn about, the first batch of language that we can use to describe our work and to enhance our ideas are going to be elements related to portraiture. We're starting with portraiture because it's relatively easy to understand, it's pretty accessible, and really it communicates so much information that you're going to need to get across in your piece. But what is portraiture? Well, it is a representation of an individual or individuals. Simply put, it's a picture of a person. And the way that person looks can be very important for an overall work's themes, concepts, big ideas. These images can be literal, they can be symbolic, and they generally seek to capture the subject, that's whatever the person that's being painted, their character, their disposition, their inner psyche, or it helps to convey a message. So, boiling it all down, portraiture is just about the way we show people in images and how we understand that. So we've got a few different elements. Our first element of portraiture, whether this be a photograph or a painting or a drawing, is costume. And that is what the subject is wearing. Now, the costume tells the viewer about who the subject is, like their values, their lifestyle, their personality, and they can also represent or symbolize ideas or concepts. If we look at this piece on our right-hand side by Klimt, if we're looking at our subject's costume, we see what looks to be very expensive clothing, a sense of elegance, a sense of fashion, helping us understand that this person is probably pretty high up in the old socioeconomic ladder. Our next is pose. This is just the way the subject's body is positioned, all right? So this communicates a lot of ideas about the subject, such as emotions or actions, and again can symbolize ideas. If we look at this dude in our photo here, his pose suggests that he is ready for action. He is ready to go. He is leaning forward as if he's ready to start moving at any second. He's in a power stance. We've communicated a lot about who this person is and what's important to them just by the way the body is positioned. Next we have expression. This one is probably the most easy for a lot of us to understand, and that's just the appearance of the subject's face, what they look like in terms of their facial expressions. Now these convey emotion, which helps establish tone and mood, but it can do a lot of other stuff too. So much, in fact, that I'm not even going to bother listing. If we look over here in our very famous work, the Mona Lisa, that expression is mega ultra famous. That slight smile, that look off to the side, that sense of mystery, that sense of peace and calm, all of that just comes from the facial expression. Next we have gesture. Now this is what the subject is doing with their hands. We have to remember that hands are very expressive. Many people talk with their hands, we communicate, we move them to emphasize and things like that. The objects that we hold are important to us. So gesture should really not be ignored. It expresses emotions, it symbolizes thoughts and feelings, and it emphasizes concepts. We got this portrait of George Washington here. One of his hands seems to be outstretched in a display of power or a display of grace, and in his other hand is a sword. Now that sword can represent all kinds of ideas, a willingness to fight, strength, bravery, violence, whatever. But just by looking at those hands, we've gained a deeper understanding of this piece. Finally, we have background. Background is simply everything else in the image besides the person or people. Okay? Primarily, though, it's where the subject is. So this establishes mood. It can contain symbols, and it orients the subject in space and time. If we look at this piece right here, out at the background, we have a tranquil-looking river with a rowboat. Sorry, I'm going to say it's a canoe. My bad. We've got this lush forest, and it's overall creating this sense of peace and comfort. Now that's all we have for this today. The next thing that we're going to do is jump into an activity where you're going to look at two portraits and begin breaking down these 5 elements. Remember, all of them together, when we put them together, help us understand the underlying meanings of our images.